Tell me what confidence you can instill in your fan base that may not believe that you guys had a legitimate shot.
I think we believe. It's everybody else that don't. If I got to hear one more praise about Boston on national TV when we win a game, I'm tired of hearing that, man. It's 1-1, and we're going to go up 2-1. See y'all later. Peace.
Appreciate you, brother.
He's Chris Haynes, senior NBA insider for TNT and Bleacher Report. He's in town covering Celtics Heat. He's about to head to shoot around across the street. Were you disoriented? Did you have trouble doing your job with Jimmy Butler because of the pigtails? Were you distracted or disoriented by that?
No, I got a glimpse of it before we actually went on air, so I was prepared. But I got a little insight for you, a little behind, peel back the curtains for you guys. That led to that interview, which led to him saying what he said about the Celtics paying too much attention to them. So before we went live, he got on us, me, at TNT for in Game 2 we promoted Jason Tatum's shoe during Game 2. He's like, man, y'all better stop doing that. Stop promoting a player's shoe during the game, especially while the Heat are winning. And so then 30 seconds later, we go live, which led to that. So that's just give you some insight on where Jimmy was coming from.
Not pigtails, Jessica?
Space buns, Dan.
Space buns.
Yeah, big difference.
Okay, I'm sorry. Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Do you know the difference between space buns and pigtails?
Pigtails he's saving for next media day.
Yeah, he's not coming back in this series. I think the most surprising result that we've gotten this entire postseason was Miami beating them that way in Game 2. Yeah. You do what with the idea that the Boston Celtics, if they're going to beat you, that's how they're going to beat you. But plenty of people are questioning whether they can do that or will do that in a 2-point playoff game. Yeah. Everyone thinks and knows they can do that. They've been doing that all season, winning by 20, by 30, by 50.
Are people saying do it in a close game?
People are saying their mental toughness is fragile. Yes, that is something Charles Barkley and others have said.
Said that about the Miami Heat?
No, about the Boston
Celtics, yes. Yeah. I do think this is a different team, though. This is not the same Boston Celtics team we saw the last couple of years where turnovers, bad shot selection has gotten the best of them. They're a deep squad. And you know, the way that they've dominated teams throughout the course of this season, especially with wins, they have a double-digit win margin in beating teams. Like, that's how they play. They want to get up, get fast, and, you know, to the Miami Heat, do they have a legitimate shot? Like, so Game 2, 23 threes, that's actually going to, you know, that's going to help you. But you know they're not going to shoot like that on a night-to-night basis, not against this team, for sure. And you saw in Game 3, they struggled to generate offense.
84 points is the lowest point total of the season for the team.
I was talking with Spo, and I asked Spo before Game 3 about, you know, how do you generate offense, especially when you got Drew Holiday, who's a lockdown defender, and Tyler Hero's probably their best. Yeah, he is their best perimeter offensive player. And he said you don't want to have Drew just lined up on Tyler. We want to move Drew around. Because if you just have Drew just locked in on Tyler, then Drew has the body and the physicality to knock Tyler off his spots. And, you know, we don't like that matchup. And now if you got him moving, that's why the Heat do a lot of dribble handoffs. You get them moving in space and create mismatches. That's how Tyler and other guys can get off. But a heavy dose of that, I just don't know if that's going to work in this series.
You're very close to Damian Lillard. You were in his wedding?
Yeah, I was, yes, in his wedding, yeah.
And a lot of people are reporting that he's unhappy, which would make sense. What is your reporting?
I think he was unhappy with how things were going. I mean, he's not unhappy being in Milwaukee, that's for sure. You know, he wants to figure this thing out. And now, unfortunately, he's out with this Achilles injury. Giannis Antetokounmpo's out with the calf injury. Right now, I think their focus is, you know, trying to maximize this offseason, build some continuity together. Because remember when that trade happened, you know, they didn't have a full training camp. They didn't have time to gel. So I think that's the focus right now. So it's a tough season, but not the way they wanted to start it off. But, you know, it is what it is at this point.
What can you tell me about his personality and the difficulties that he may have had creating the messy public conflict that he would have had to create in order to get to Miami the way that he wanted to?
Yeah. I actually thought he was going to end up here. You know, I actually thought at some point when all the dust settled, all the messiness got out the way, I thought he would get here. Didn't happen, obviously. But I've talked to him about this. He wouldn't change anything. He doesn't feel the messiness came from his side.
Well, no, it had to in order for it to happen the way that he wanted it to happen. It would have had to come from his side.
Well, you consider messiness
not from him directly.
Yeah, you're talking about the messiness, the public trade request.
I'm talking about in order to get what he actually wanted. He's the first superstar that this changed on, where you make this kind of noise and you don't get exactly what you want. And I thought it's because he needed to go messier with what his
I agree.
Do more damage to his reputation that he wanted to do.
I agree. You would have had to go on public. Yeah, I agree with you on that in that regard. That's not in him. That's not in his DNA right there. Because he always, he wanted to make things work in Portland. That was his first option. But they weren't putting the pieces around him to give him a legitimate shot to contend for a championship. So the trade request was made behind the scenes. Obviously, that gets out. But yeah, he was not going to go public. Now, had things going on longer, possibly, but it wasn't at the state where he felt prepared and ready to go public with that.
What can you tell me about the wedding?
The best wedding I've ever attended.
Really?
Best wedding I've ever attended. You had Johnny Gill was there.
Right.
Tevin Campbell's son, Common the rapper, was there. Snoop Dogg came. He rapped. I feel like I'm missing a few, but it was crazy.
That's a good wedding.
Yeah, Draymond Green came. Bradley Beal was there. All of his Portland Trailblazer teammates were there. That was something. I've never experienced that.
I saw that he gave all of his Bucks teammates Tissot because he's got a deal with them, and that struck me as something that was worth several hundreds of thousands of dollars that he didn't have to pay himself because he's able to just get all of his teammates in a photo with great watches.
Yeah, he got it like that. I mean, he's always been, I think him, LeBron, there's some other guys, Steph, they're known for like, giving their teammates outlandish gifts. I wouldn't call that outlandish, but they're known for doing things like that behind the scenes to kind of try to build some team chemistry and build some closeness.
Chris, throughout your career, you've done an exceptional job covering LeBron James specifically. And over the weekend, I thought there was a fairly surprising result with them battling back into that series, especially when you consider how Game 2 went. What do you make of LeBron's career right now as it stands? Because not really on a title threat yet again. It's been a weird, disjointed experience with the Los Angeles Lakers, and now you got AD calling out Darvin Ham publicly.
Ooh, okay. So I will say this about LeBron. When I took the job to cover LeBron, this was 2014, Cleveland Plain Deal. This is after we left Miami, went back to Cleveland. So that was my first. I wanted to become a national writer, and so I felt like covering a major beat, because I covered the Blazers before that. I feel like covering a major beat would be my next step to becoming a national writer. So when I took that Cleveland job, when LeBron came back, I took it with the expectation that I would be covering LeBron's downfall. I thought he was going downhill from there, So I'm like, okay, this will be.
Welcome to my nightmare with Tom Brady, saying he was in decline when he was 37.
Yeah.
You thought LeBron
37.
You thought LeBron was done at 10 years earlier than he was done. And
his career's winding down.
That's crazy.
Is it? Are you sure? Are you sure?
That's crazy because that first year covering 2014-15 season, he suffered an injury midway, and he missed like 15 or so games. And at that time, that was the most games he's ever missed in a season in his career. So I'm like, okay, well, this is something I can chronicle right here. Maybe I have a book in,
The last days.
The last days of LeBron.
It would still be on your
final
computer.
days.
Yeah, what a miscalculation by our basketball information insider. A real expert on the league. A totally reasonable thing to think that someone would just age like a human being ages.
Hey, that was my beat status at that point. I didn't reach this level at there. But yeah, that was 10 years ago. He since got a championship, out of it. Went to the Lakers out of it and got a championship with the Lakers. So 2 championships since then, But it was a cool experience. One story I'll say about LeBron real quick. So I went in covering that team with the intentions of like, okay, I'm gonna try to be semi-hard. gonna try to be a semi-hard reporter. If I'm gonna make my mark, I gotta take that angle. So it was the first year. Remember, you guys, Kevin,
like ask tough questions.
Yeah, ask tough questions and write tough articles, and he was being real tough on Kevin Love at that time. It just wasn't fitting. Kevin Love was the third wheel, and the Chris Bosh kind of role. And I remember Bron tweeted out something. I don't know if you guys remember. He was like, fit in or fit out. It was like a very cryptic tweet. And so everybody believed he was talking about Kevin Love. So then I went and wrote a story about, how I feel like LeBron is not handling his leadership responsibilities the right way. It did good numbers. It did good. Next day, locker room. LeBron finishes his media address. I'm waiting for him to say something to me. And we didn't have a relationship really back then. He didn't say anything to me. So the media gets excused out the locker room. Last minute, LeBron, come on. Chris, come here. I'm like, oh, shoot, all right. So I go over there, and he was like, listen, I don't have a problem with what you wrote. He said, if that's your assessment, if that's your analysis, fine. See, the only problem I had with you is that you didn't come to me and ask me, why am I handling this matter in that way? And I can tell you why I'm doing it this way because I see things that you don't see. I'm around these guys like you. So that's the only thing I add. And so from that point on, I was like, you're right. From that point on, like even when I'm breaking stories that may be deemed negative to the player, GM, coach, whatever, I will always call that player, coach, GM, whatever, give them a heads up. Let them know what's coming. And sometimes they may say, hey, it's not that way. Give me a different perspective. I may change course. Most times I don't. But at least they know when it's coming from me, they're not going to find out on Twitter first.
You're one of the few reporters that has a good relationship with Kevin Durant. That franchise is bleeped on how it is that they're built over the next couple of years. And Booker was yelling at the T-Wolves bench, we play team ball, we share the ball. And then as soon as the Suns are eliminated, it's reported that Kevin Durant was unhappy with his role in that offense. What is true about Kevin Durant in Phoenix? What is not true about Kevin Durant in terms of public perception?
Well, I talked to him, the last time I talked to him probably a month ago, and he told me how he's enjoying the process of trying to get acclimated to playing alongside Devin Booker and Bradley Beal. He enjoys it. One thing about KD, he likes new challenges, and he considers himself a basketball aficionado, and so with that, he embraces new paths. And this is no different. This is something he wants to conquer. He wants to, bring the Suns a championship and do it with those two guys. Now, with that being said, have there been times this season where he's been maybe a little unsettled in his role and how he's being used? Yes, because he's being used differently. His points, his field goal attempts are down. He's still efficient, still one of the most efficient players we have in this league. So, yeah, there's been some frustration at times, but, Bradley Beal shares the same frustration. I know he had 9 points in the closeout game, the Timberwolves closeout game, shot badly. There's a clip of him. As soon as he fouls out, Vogel extends his hand for a high five, and then Beal kind of shoves his hand out the way. Not a good look. As far as Vogel, what I will say is this, is that I know Frank Vogel personally. I know he wanted a point guard on that roster. And the front office believed that bringing a point guard over would take the ball out of the hands of Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. And so, I think they didn't see eye to eye in that regard. So that's the end
of that front office. That owner's not going to sit around and tolerate very much.
I think something's going to happen. I don't know whether it's the front office or it's the coach. Something's going to happen.
But nothing can happen with the players. They're locked in.
Never.
Right.
Especially, Bradley Beal still has that no trade clause. They $50 million apiece for those three around there. So nothing can happen to those guys. But they're a top-heavy team, so they have to find some balance going into next season.
They're
if
bleeped.
They want to be.
They're
legit.
bleeped.
Yeah.
No draft picks.
No draft
the rest
picks,
of the decade.
Yeah.
And Anthony Edwards is now in the division, and OKC is the youngest team in the league. And it's done. Like, they made all of those moves. They're not going to be able to fix that. The old people are out in the NBA. It's the young people's time.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, even with the Phoenix, Lakers, they're going to have a similar – look like they may have a similar situation where they may be contemplating a change at the head coaching job. And look, whether it's valid or not, I don't know. But what I will say is, who else is out there? Who else is out there that's going to take on Phoenix, take them to the next level? Who's out there for the Lakers?
Not a bad idea. Chris, last week Dan was talking about a list that was sent to him. It's the top 13 centers
Chris,
in the NBA that are better than
Thank you for being on with us.
Did you send the list?
Chris, we appreciate seeing you again.
It was Stan Van Gundy.
Thank you. It was not Stan Van Gundy. Thank you, Chris. Good seeing you.
Thanks for having me on.